Weight training for sprints and jumping. It's always a subject matter that seems to ruffle people's feathers. I've recently had a few comments on the channel about the specific transference of weights, for example, and some of the exercises that we do to specific jumping and sprinting. So I want to address a few of the issues raised and really get to grips with what I see as the limited transference of weight training to directly improving jumping and sprinting. Listen carefully to what I said. I said direct transference to sprinting and jumping. The only activities which are specifically transferable to sprinting and jumping are, not surprisingly, sprinting and jumping. A first generational activity would be jumping off a full run-up, for example. A second generational activity would be short approach jumping. So you can see how specific exercises need to be to transfer. Weight training would be, in my opinion, and in many others' opinions, a fifth or even a sixth generational activity, that far down the chain from a first generational activity. So there is going to be limited transference, but that does not mean to say that weight training has zero relevance to improving jumping and sprinting. Its benefits are limited but potentially there in terms of non-obvious transference, such as potentiation and greater neural stimulation, which may transfer into actual event performance over time. So in the weights room, if you overload with a lot of weight or perform a loaded jump squat, for example, something that requires a lot of neural stimulation, then you're going to recruit greater numbers of fast twitch muscle fibers and the motor units that recruit them. And that neural overload stimulation can potentiate performance in that particular session, and because of the increased power production over a number of sessions, that can therefore benefit potentially long and triple jump and sprint performance, because the jumper sprinter will be able to recruit more muscle fibers, be better able to turn on neurally their muscle fibers, fast twitch muscle fibers, in a first generational activity. I had some comment on, for example, a step back lunge that was in one of my videos. Now, the person who made the comments was saying that the movement patterns and the rate of force absorption had very little relevance to the actual long jump, triple jump, sprint events. What I was indicating was that these exercises had a relevance, albeit a limited one. And as this was a short and not one of my longer form videos, I think the exercises were taken out of context. As regular viewers of my channel will know, there are plenty of videos on the channel which go into detail about weight training and the perceived and real limited value of weight training for sprinting and jumping. I made a video which featured the work of Anatoly Bondarchuk, who studied elite athletes across many years, looking at the transference of various activities, plyometrics, weights, sprinting, etc. And there were low correlation scores, for example, for the snatch, if I remember correctly. He indicated that there was greater transference from a conditioning standpoint for plyometric type exercises. So again, we have a viewpoint that is not that dissimilar to mine. Now, that video caused some raised eyebrows, and I'm not quite sure why, because many coaches don't utilize weights as a prime driver of performance.
Thanks for asking me the question about weights and how I feel about the transfer for jumpers. So I feel my thing is like I'm kind of on a continuum. So for the younger, the athlete, weights are less important. We still do them, but I think form and function are the most important things. As the athletes get older, weights become more important. And then we get into the specificity of weights and that correlation of the weights and how they transfer into the event that they're doing. So
obviously you have a camp that will believe weight training can improve performance directly. I'm someone who doesn't believe that, so I can only really speak for myself. So I put across what I think works, and I do this through my own understanding, through my coaching process. Because I have had lots of positive results in terms of improving jumpers through a non-biased weight training philosophy, I believe that what I do works. Therefore, if I tell you guys what I do, and it's not made up. It's based on 15 years of coaching and a philosophy that's produced numerous internationals, that it must work. Therefore, when I get criticism about weight training, it sort of goes over my shoulders to a degree. If I don't do lots and lots of cleans and snatches and load very heavy in the weights room on a regular basis, as many other coaches do, I'm not perplexed. I'm not worried by that, because what I do actually works. Everybody is entitled to have an opinion, and if they want to critique another coach's work, of course they're able to do that. They can do that. But what I will say is that they need to understand what the coach is trying to do. We can all take things out of context in isolation and not see the bigger picture. I'm willing to be challenged, and I'm willing to be taught to learn from other coaches, and then to dissect what they say and apply that knowledge into my coaching practice and philosophies. It's pretty obvious that a weight training exercise performed in the gym is going to have limited transference, direct transference to long jumping, triple jumping, sprinting. I've said it many times, the fastest you can perform a squat is about half a second, whereas your foot is in contact for milliseconds, sprinting at maximum velocity. Therefore, transference is going to be limited. However, there is still a viewpoint that weight training can provide a foundational transference for first, second and third generational activities. And I've talked about the potentiating transference as well of weight training exercises. And it also can promote greater injury resilience and robustness. And of course, you cannot sprint and jump day in, day out. You need to have a balanced training program, and therefore by implementing S&C, weight training for example, you can get away for a day from jumping and sprinting and undulate the type of loading and intensities that the jumper, sprinter has to go through on a week-by-week microcycle or whatever basis. There are areas in the world where weight training, for example, is done peripherally. It's done away from the track training. Therefore, there's a likelihood that there's going to be a mismatch between what's done in the weights room, or indeed an overload, too much of an overload, between what's done in the weights room and what's done on the track. There has to be synergy, there has to be integration for everything to work. Well, I hope this not defense of my stance philosophy will help you understand the value of weight training. Shortly, I'll be going to the European Under-18 Championships to watch Bora, the Hungarian athlete that I coach. And no doubt I'll probably make some content on how she does out there and the event in general. I might also talk about her training. Does not include a huge amount of weight training. She's a young athlete, and that's another factor to take into account when it comes to weight training. And good luck, of course, with your training and any competitions that you've got coming up. And please do subscribe to the channel. And if you're looking for a great training shoe that is going to speed you up and enable you to express more force and power, then check out the Antips Muscle Runners. With their negative gain, they tilt the foot forwards, and they also have a carbon fiber plate in the forefoot that will increase toe off and really utilize the musculature of your lower legs. You can get a 15% discount. Do check out the link in the video description.